You know, walking into the championship standings right after round 8 of this OzOvals V8 supercar season, it's honestly kind of like walking into a dive bar the morning after a massive just furniture smashing brawl.
Oh, absolutely. Just total carnage everywhere.
Right. Like, you step over the splintered chairs, you note the pool cue that's inexplicably embedded in the jukebox, and you just see a room full of battered people.
Yeah, everybody's got a black eye.
Exactly. But your goal isn't just to gawk at the wreckage. Your goal is to reverse engineer the chaos.
I like that. Reverse engineering it.
Yeah, you want to look at the guy passed out under a table and then look at the guy miraculously standing by the register holding a pristine trophy and figure out the exact sequence of, mechanical, strategic, and frankly, psychological events that put them in those very specific positions.
Right, because it really requires looking past just the sheer spectacle of the damage. I mean, the guy holding the trophy didn't necessarily throw the hardest punches.
No, probably not.
Right, he might have just possessed, a superior understanding of spatial awareness, knowing precisely when to duck and when to let two other guys just take each other out entirely.
And that is exactly our mission for this deep dive today. We are looking strictly at the top 10 of the driver standings, and this one is custom tailored for you, the drivers yourselves.
Because you're the ones in the trenches.
Exactly. Look, if you're listening to this, you are the ones strapped into the wigs. You know intimately what a Gen 3 Camaro or Mustang feels like through your direct drive wheelbase when the rear tires just, suddenly fall off a cliff.
Oh, yeah, that horrible loose feeling.
Right. But when you're in the heat of the moment, you're sweating in the seat, you're managing your brake bias, while a 4-wide pack threatens to door slam you into the wall at Auto Club Speedway.
Which is terrifying, by the way.
It's incredibly easy to lose sight of the overarching championship narrative.
It really is. I mean, when your field of vision narrows to just the bumper of the car 6 inches in front of you, and you're hyper-fixated on your relative timing box or your tire temp readouts, those macro-level permutations just kind of fade into the background.
You stop driving for the season, and you just start driving purely for the corner.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But analyzing the broader trends, like the actual mechanics of why certain strategies are failing or succeeding over an 8-round sample size, that is how you adapt.
Okay, let's unpack this. Looking at the absolute insanity that has characterized these first 8 rounds, I have a fundamental question about the architecture of this leaderboard.
All right, lay it on me.
Is the current top 10 shaped more by raw, undeniable pace dictating the terms of engagement, or simply by surviving the sheer attritional chaos of it all?
Man, that right there is the defining tension of this entire season.
Right.
Yeah. At this specific juncture, raw pace is really acting as a shiny object. It gets you on the broadcast, right? And it might win you a pole position.
Sure, looks great on camera.
Exactly. But what is structurally separating the absolute contenders from the pretenders right now isn't single-lap qualifying speed. It's a ruthless application of consistency.
Consistency and, tire saving.
Yeah, coupled with a deep, almost mathematical understanding of tire-saving mechanics. The drivers floating to the top aren't necessarily the ones driving the hardest. They're the ones driving with the most mechanical empathy for the Gen 3 platform.
Mechanical empathy. I like that phrase. And if we're talking about raw pace versus mechanical empathy, we've got to start at the absolute peak of the standings.
Oh, we have to.
Because the two guys dominating the championship right now embody that exact dichotomy perfectly. You've got the current points leader, Ruben Phelps, sitting on 279 points.
Blind eye.
Yeah, and immediately behind him, hunting him down, is the reigning champion, Gary Wellman, with 257 points.
It's just a phenomenal stylistic clash, isn't it? I mean, Ruben Phelps has essentially weaponized his track position.
Oh, totally. By dominating early and going 2 for 2 with those wins at Daytona and Charlotte, he established a massive psychological buffer. But the notes on his profile highlight something really crucial. They explicitly say he's quick, can be involved in big incidents.
Which makes perfect sense when you look at the physics of how he races.
Right. He came out swinging, but his aggressive front-running style has a massive cost. I actually love that moment from the broadcast booth where Ruben openly acknowledged the sheer vulnerability of his position after that second win.
Oh, the bullseye quote.
Yes. He noted he has a bullseye on the nose, side, back, roof, and he even said, even the helicopter's going to have a bullseye with my name on it.
That was hilarious.
And then, because New Zealand apparently lacks Target stores, the commentators brilliantly joked that he'll just have to paint the Kmart on the back of his car instead.
Paint the Kmart. I mean, it's a great soundbite, but it points to a very real aerodynamic and strategic deficit.
How so?
Well, when you're the points leader running out front in a series where the draft is incredibly powerful, you are the one punching the hole in the air.
Right, doing all the work.
Exactly. You're burning more fuel to maintain that gap. Furthermore, every single driver in your mirror is utilizing you as their brake marker and their draft shield. Phelps forces the issue, putting his car in positions to dictate the flow of the pack, but that aggression fundamentally increases his exposure to chaotic variables.
And eating up his tires.
He is forcing his tires to do way more work.
But wait, let me push back on that for a second, because running in clean air at the front also means you aren't stuck in the turbulent aero wash of the mid-pack.
That's true.
We know how much these Gen 3 cars rely on front grip, and sitting in dirty air cooks your front left tire in about, 10 laps?
Yeah, it's brutal.
So isn't Phelps actually saving his equipment by aggressively staying ahead of the mess?
In a vacuum, yes. Clean air preserves the front tires. But the reality of these oval tracks is that Phelps rarely gets to just sail away into a 4-second lead.
Right, the pack always catches up.
The draft naturally reels him back in. So he ends up fighting defensively, constantly altering his line to break the slipstream, which just scrubs the lateral surface of his tires. And that brings us to Gary Wellman.
The reigning champ.
Yeah. Wellman had an abysmal start to the season. I mean, round 3, he wasn't even in the top 10.
He was nowhere.
Nowhere. But he clawed his way to second by grabbing a crucial win at Michigan and basically doing the exact opposite of what you just described.
He definitely did. Well, Wellman is fascinating because he didn't suddenly unlock some hidden horsepower to bridge that points gap.
Yeah.
He did it purely through resource management.
Yep, fuel and tires.
Our notes specifically highlight his fuel conservation and his tire-saving discipline. He is basically the undisputed master of what everyone in the paddock calls the caution dance.
Ah, the caution dance. It's a highly polarized strategy, but Wellman executes it better than anyone on the grid. He stays out that one extra lap, stretching his fuel window when the rest of the field dives into the pits.
Hoping for a yellow.
Exactly. Banking entirely on a yellow flag flying so he can effectively steal a free pit stop.
But hold on, I gotta call that out. Relying on a caution to bail out your fuel strategy feels less like a strategic masterclass and more like just, buying a lottery ticket.
It definitely looks like that from the outside.
Right. If the race stays green at a track like Michigan or Auto Club, the tire degradation is so severe that staying out on old rubber while the undercut guys are on fresh tires means you are losing 3 to 4 seconds a lap. If the yellow doesn't fall, Wellman's race is instantly destroyed. How is that sustainable?
It sounds like gambling, but Wellman is counting cards.
Okay, explain that.
He isn't just closing his eyes and hoping for a crash. He actively manipulates his fuel burn early in the stint by rolling off the throttle, say, 50 meters earlier than the pack going into the corner and utilizing the clutch to coast. He's banking fuel while the cars around him are running rich.
Oh, wow. So he's building a buffer before he even needs it.
Exactly. He lowers his engine temps, and most importantly, he manages the slip angle of his rear tires. So when that pit window finally opens, he isn't stretching his stint on completely dead rubber. His tires still have latent grip because he never overdrove them early on.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Does Rubin's aggressive, Kmart on the back style inherently make him vulnerable to Wellman over the remaining rounds?
That's the million-dollar question.
If Wellman operates like this methodical Terminator, just slowly neutralizing aggression with geometry and fuel maps, does Phelps eventually just burn himself out?
Over a long enough timeline, attrition usually defeats outright aggression in this specific car model. If Phelps is constantly reacting to the pack, he'll eventually encounter a situation where his tires simply cannot answer the steering input he's demanding.
So we have the reigning champ playing chess and the current leader playing dodgeball.
Great way to put it.
But while those two are consuming all the oxygen at the top, the drivers sitting in third and fourth are taking this exact same dichotomy pace versus survival and pushing it to absolute extremes.
Oh, man. Yeah.
We're looking at Troy Davidson in third with 240 points and Ryan Jr. Barber in fourth with 237 points.
It is the ultimate contrast in racing philosophies.
Yeah.
You got the phantom versus the wild card.
Let's talk about Troy Davidson first, because his entire strategy seems to revolve around invisibility. The broadcast noted he's not flashy, but extremely effective.
Yeah, invisible is the perfect word.
If a race goes green for a 60-lap stint, you simply do not hear Troy's name. The commentators completely forget he's even out there, and then suddenly there are 5 laps remaining, and Troy magically manifests in the top 3 out of thin air.
What's fascinating here is the sheer psychological discipline required to execute Troy's strategy.
Seriously.
He understands that fighting for third place on lap 20 of a 100-lap race at a track like Charlotte is a fool's errand.
It's pointless.
Completely. Engaging in mid-pack side-by-side battles forces you off the optimal racing line. You drive through the marbles, the discarded rubber on the high side of the track.
And the moment those marbles stick to your hot tires,
you lose half a second of pace for the next 3 laps. But Troy avoids the marbles entirely. He sits just below the seam, stays out of the hornet's nest, and willingly gives up track position early to ensure he has a superior tire delta at the end.
I understand the theory, but I'm skeptical.
Really? Why?
Being invisible often just looks like a polite way of saying you lack the raw pace to challenge the leaders. If you're constantly hanging back and preserving tires, aren't you just hoping the guys ahead of you make a mistake? What happens if the leaders don't crash and the race finishes under green? Troy is just stuck in 6th place with a set of perfectly preserved tires he never used.
That is the inherent risk of the phantom strategy. Absolutely. You are conceding control of the race's narrative.
Yep.
However, the Gen 3 cars are so difficult to drive on worn tires that mistakes from the leaders aren't just possible, they are mathematically probable. Troy is betting against the field's collective ability to run a flawless race.
Which perfectly brings us to Ryan Barber Jr.
Oh boy.
If Troy is betting against the field making mistakes, Ryan Barber is out there actively trying to break the casino.
It really is.
Our notes literally say, quick but finds trouble. And yet, he somehow survived the absolute meat grinder of round 8 at Auto Club Speedway to take the win.
Surviving Auto Club requires an immense amount of situational awareness, but doing it with Ryan's particular methodology, it just defies conventional sim racing logic.
We absolutely must bring up the broadcast booth's reaction to him because it is legendary.
I was hoping we'd talk about this.
The commentators were completely losing their minds over his setup and his driving style. Apparently, while navigating 180-mile-per-hour traffic, he is literally juggling items on stream and yelling things like, "Banned!" into the microphone while in traffic. Yes, they pointed out that he frequently drives with his knees. The booth joked that given the torque of modern direct drive wheels, if that wheel snaps back during a crash while his knees are under it, his kneecap will be launched over to the next county.
I mean, as amusing as that visual is, anyone who has ever felt a 20 Newton-meter wheelbase instantly clip and snap during a wall strike knows that is a legitimate physical hazard.
Oh, it'll break your wrists, let alone your knees.
Exactly. But beneath the juggling and the broadcast antics, you have a driver relying entirely on raw, unadulterated instinct. He doesn't save tires, he doesn't manage the gap, he aggressively threads the needle in spaces that mathematically shouldn't even exist.
And here's the fact that completely breaks my brain. After 8 rounds of brutal, high-stakes racing, balancing fuel maps and tire slip angles, the difference between Troy's zen-like invisible patience and Ryan's kneecap-endangering chaos is exactly 3 points.
Wow.
3 points. How does the championship math support 2 wildly opposing methodologies yielding the exact same output?
It proves that the aerodynamic package of the Gen 3 car actually allows for multiple viable paths to the front, provided you execute your chosen path flawlessly.
So it's about commitment.
Yeah. Ryan's sheer speed can overcome his tactical deficits and higher incident rate. When he avoids the wall, his pace is so devastating that he wins outright.
And Troy?
Troy avoids the wall entirely, ensuring a steady stream of top 5 finishes. It's the classic debate of high risk, high yield versus low risk, consistent yield.
So if Barber and Davidson represent the extreme, isolated ends of the spectrum in a vacuum, what happens when you throw those exact opposing mentalities into a blender?
Chaos. Pure chaos.
Because that is exactly what we see looking at the massive bottleneck from 5th to 9th place. This mid-pack is a complete battlefield where the strategists are being forced to survive alongside the instigators.
The mid-pack is really where theoretical strategy violently collides with on-track reality. Especially this season, where standard 1.5-mile cookie-cutter ovals are racing like full-blown superspeedways.
Let's look at the players here. In 5th, you've got Matthew Raymond with 234 points. The notes designate him as strategic, and he's so proficient at utilizing the draft that the broadcast literally dubbed Daytona Raytona in his honor.
A well-deserved nickname, honestly.
Right. And right behind him in 6th is Perry Anastakis with 220 points. Clean, strategic, put the car on pole at Charlotte.
Very methodical driver.
Tied with him in 7th is Craig Roffey, also at 220 points, a multiple-time champion who secured a massive win at Kentucky. And in 9th, you have Kim Roffey with 207 points, a very clean driver with solid strategy who is just cursed with horrendous luck.
Which is awful for him, but yeah, that's a formidable block of calculated road car mentality drivers. They want to hit their apexes, they want to manage their slipstream, and run a geometrically perfect race.
But sitting right in the middle of them in 8th place is Cade Donnelly with 213 points.
The chaos coordinator himself.
Yes. Our notes say he likes to voice his opinion. And the broadcast perfectly summarized his entire season. They said he either thrives in the chaos or gets demolished. There's no in-between.
Pretty accurate.
So, what does this all mean? When you have a multi-time champion like Craig Roffey or a pure strategist like Matthew Raymond trying to execute a meticulously planned fuel stint, how on earth do they calculate for the sheer, unpredictable chaos of a driver like Cade Donnelly suddenly throwing it 4 wide going into turn 3?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is they can't calculate for it.
They just can't.
No.
Yeah.
And that is exactly why the mid-pack is the most psychologically demanding place on a track. You can have the most sophisticated telemetry overlay on your triple monitors, telling you exactly when to lift and coast, but a spreadsheet cannot account for a dive bomb.
It's impossible. You can't outmath a guy who is perfectly willing to put his own car in the fence just to see if a gap opens up.
Exactly. It's the opposite of a controlled environment. The strategic drivers are forced into real-time risk assessment based entirely on the visual cue of who is in their virtual mirror.
That's a great point.
Like if Perry Anastakis is setting up a corner exit and sees a fellow strategist like Kim Roffey behind him, he knows he can trust the car behind not to do anything irrational.
Right. They speak the same language.
But the moment Cade Donnelly's bumper appears in that same mirror, Anastakis has to instantly alter his driving line. He has to take a defensive posture, which compromises his exit speed and scrubs his tires.
So Donnelly doesn't even have to make a move to disrupt them.
Exactly. Donnelly doesn't have to touch him. His mere presence forces the strategist to abandon their optimal data points.
Wow. And, as if managing the chaotic drivers wasn't enough for these guys, we absolutely have to factor in the most terrifying, unpredictable element of this entire series.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
The infamous Watson curse.
A truly spectacular piece of statistical anomaly.
For you drivers listening who might somehow be unaware of the hex placed upon you, commentator James Watson has developed a chilling track record.
It's uncanny.
If he picks you to win the race during the pre-show broadcast, you are practically guaranteed to suffer a catastrophe.
It's basically a death sentence for your race.
You'll end up in the wall, your internet will magically disconnect, or your virtual engine will just spontaneously detonate. It happens with such terrifying regularity that the broadcast booth now actively apologizes to whichever driver Watson selects.
It's so funny. But while it's a fantastic piece of community lore, the Watson curse actually serves as a perfect metaphor for the underlying theme of attrition we've been discussing.
Oh, I like where you're going. How so?
It highlights how razor-thin the margins of error are in these Gen 3 cars. You can run a flawless race, perfectly balancing Cade Donnelly's chaos with Matthew Raymond's strategy, and a single, bizarre variable entirely outside of your control can instantly terminate your championship hopes.
Which brings us to the very edge of the top 10, where the pressure of those unpredictable variables is at its absolute highest.
The bubble.
Sitting in 10th place, right on the bubble, is Scott McClintock with 205 points. He is the gatekeeper right now.
It is the most precarious position on the leaderboard. McClintock is technically in the elite group, but he is driving with a constant paranoid focus on his rearview mirror.
And he should be paranoid because the guy sitting right outside in 11th place is Adam Malone with 197 points. Our notes simply describe Malone as quick.
And the pace is definitely there.
It is, but he has suffered some completely heartbreaking late race crashes, specifically that massive wreck at Auto Club right when the race strategy was finally tilting in his favor.
And this raises an important question for the rest of the season. How does desperation alter the macro strategy of the entire field?
Oh, drastically, I'd imagine.
Yeah. When a driver like Adam Malone, who clearly possesses top 5 pace, is sitting outside the top 10 due to misfortune, his psychological approach shifts entirely. He is no longer points racing.
He's got nothing to lose.
Right. He is racing for outright survival and podiums. He will not lift to save a set of tires if it means giving up a position to a driver like McClintock.
It creates a massive domino effect. If Malone stops lifting, McClintock has to push harder to defend his spot.
Yep.
And if McClintock pushes, it drags Kim Rafi and Cade Donnelly into a faster, more degrading pace, which eventually ripples all the way up to Troy Davidson and Gary Wellman at the top.
And that is the true test of the remainder of this season. Will the methodical, tire-saving, caution dance patience of the strategists hold up when the guys from 5th to 11th place stop caring about tire delta and start driving like their hair is on fire?
It is the ultimate collision course. We started this deep dive talking about walking into a dive bar after a massive brawl to figure out who survived.
And we found them.
We did. Right now, Ruben Phelps is holding the trophy, but Gary Wellman is methodically sweeping up the glass behind him. Troy Davidson is hiding in the rafters, and Ryan Barber is still juggling pool cues in the corner. It's a brilliantly complex ecosystem, and every single driver has to decide which role they're going to play in the next round.
So to all you drivers out there adjusting your force feedback and strapping into your rigs for the upcoming races, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on as you wait for the green light.
Let's hear it.
We know raw, aggressive pace will win you individual battles. We know surviving a 4-wide pack at Chartona will win you the respect of your peers. But if flawlessly managing your equipment, dodging the chaos of the mid-pack, and somehow escaping the dreaded Watson curse is what actually secures the championship.
Yeah.
Are you currently out there driving to capture the checkered flag? Or are you just driving to survive the broadcast booth's predictions? Think about that the next time you hear James Watson say your name on the pre-show. Until next time.